his face gets replaced with an atrocious clown. Archer gets a jump scare in his sleep. The film opens with the bizarre sight of a bunch of kids striking a plane-like pose and vanishing into thin air. The parents later witness their children's disappearance on CCTV footage of their street cams and go into a state of shock. As the plot progresses, we find out that all the missing children were from the same school and the same class, whose homeroom teacher is Justine. When Justine arrives to take her class, she finds only one student in the room who goes by the name Alex. The parents of the missing children involve the police right away and make Justine their prime suspect after finding out that their children were her students who vanished simultaneously. Lucky for Justine, who is just as traumatized as the parents, the cops fail to link her with the missing children's case and clear her of all charges. Despite her name getting cleared legally, the parents' committee at school holds her accountable and wildly accuses her of witchcraft. Following the accusations, the crowd erupts against Justine, so she is immediately escorted to her car and instructed by the school principal, Miller, not to return to school for a few days. This constant hatred and degradation disturb Justine to the point that she starts seeking solace in consuming alcohol. On top of that, she gets caught up in a string of pranks that leave her paranoid. One time, someone rings her doorbell and runs away, leaving her agitated. When she goes out to catch the person, she finds her car with the word witch painted on it with red paint. Her nerves get shot to see the sight, so she first visits Miller and shares her frustration, only to be disappointed in the end as he favors the families of the missing children. Despite understanding Justine's situation, she then officially files a report against the person who painted her car and visits her cop friend, Paul Morgan, who is also her ex-boyfriend. There, Justine shares her thoughts on interrogating Alex personally, assuming that he knows something about the disappearances, since he's the only one who didn't vanish. Despite his warnings to leave the kid alone, Justine stalks Alex once he heads home after school hours. She clearly watches someone opening the door for Alex and letting him inside, yet no one responds to her when she rings the doorbell. She tries to take a peek inside, but all the windows are concealed with newspaper. However, there's a tiny gap in one window, through which she sees Alex's parents sitting on the couch. She notes that they are as solid as statues, and their faces can't be seen due to the dimly lit ambiance. Sensing something is off, she drives away and calls Miller on her way to share what she has just witnessed. He promises to look into them and urges Justine to stay out of it. When Justine stops by a grocery store, she gets physically assaulted by a woman named Donna, who accuses her of infiltrating her house. A store worker takes notice of the assault and tosses Alex's mother out of the store. The following night, she has nightmares upon nightmares in which the missing children haunt her. She wakes up gasping, indicating clear signs of depression and anxiety. The next morning, she bothers Alex outside school once again, but he terribly ignores her. Determined to talk to him, she waits for him outside his house, but unintentionally falls asleep in her car. This allows Alex's psychotic mother to step out and chop off locks of Justine's hair for no particular reason. The story shifts to Archer, one of the grieving fathers of the missing children. He's been deeply disturbed by his child's disappearance, so he checks up on the police for regular updates, but only gets disappointed and argues every time, as the cops have already given up on finding the missing kids. One night, Archer sees his kid in his dreams, who leads him to a house. Where his face gets replaced with an atrocious clown. Archer gets a jump scare in his sleep.
You have 10 seconds to get more snacks and like the video. You shouldn't play with terror.
Due to which he wakes up in a cold sweat. However, he takes the hint from his dream and tries to locate the house where he saw his son. He locates other missing kids' homes on the map and draws intersecting lines, which lead him to one particular house. He decides to visit that place, but gets distracted by seeing Justine drive past. He approaches her at the gas station just to talk, but she flips out on him, knowing that he was the one who vandalized her car. Amidst their argument, they witness the school principal, Miller, charging at them with his face drenched in blood. Miller's primary target is Justine, so Archer attempts to save her, but gets beaten up by Miller instead. The scenes rewind to a few days back to properly introduce Officer Paul's character, who was Justine's former lover. He changes at the police station, makes some lunch plans with Ed, the chief of police, and heads out in his police vehicle to patrol the streets. During this time, he targets a teenage boy who keeps peeping inside people's homes. The boy starts running away upon seeing Paul, which only makes him more suspicious of the boy. Hence, he captures him and pins him to the ground. Once cuffed, Paul searches his pockets and gets stung by an injection full of some kind of drug. Paul loses his calm and knocks out the boy with a single punch. He immediately bandages the stung finger and wakes up the boy. He threatens the boy to leave the town and returns to the police station, where he's told that he's good to go as long as the kid doesn't report the assault within a month. The story's biggest plot twist is revealed when Paul heads home to see his wife, who turns out to be Donna. Paul's plot line ends with Paul spotting the teenage boy, James, whom he had assaulted earlier. The story introduces James next, who is a homeless junkie. He steals trivial stuff from people's homes and sells it for dimes for the sake of his survival. One day, he mistakenly breaks into Alex's home and tries to look for something to steal. Instead, he comes across Alex's parents in the lounge, who have solidified like porcelain mannequins. Upon further exploring the house, James finds all 17 missing children in their basement. Petrified, he immediately runs away instead of helping the kids. With the stolen cutlery, he visits his OG pawn shop, where he sells the stolen goods. There he sees the missing children's poster and finds out about the $50,000 reward. He decides to confess to the cops what he saw at Alex's house, but before that, he gets spotted by Paul, who is hell-bent on chasing him. Running from him, James ends up in the woods, where he's lured by the freaky clown from Archer's nightmare. James gets stoned and hides in his tent, where Paul captures him. James tells him about the missing kids, so Paul drives him to Alex's house and goes in alone. As James waits outside in Paul's car, a deranged Paul comes out of the house and drags James back inside. The story shifts to Miller, who is seen grocery shopping when Justine calls him to share her concerns about Alex's parents. Before he can check up on them, Alex's aunt, Gladys, visits Miller during school hours and introduces herself as Alex's guardian, claiming that his parents are unwell. Her face is the spitting image of the clown that's been haunting everyone, which makes everything unsettling. Later at night, Gladys visits Miller at his house and secretly performs a disturbing ritual involving her blood to cast Miller under her spell. She performs a second ritual with Justine's hair lock, which Alex's mother had cut off in her sleep. The second ritual makes Miller target Justine. Now the story continues from the part where Miller attacked Justine and Archer. During the chase, Miller's eyes start to pop out of his eye sockets more and more with each second. At last, Justine and Archer flee in their car, whereas Miller gets hit by a passing-by vehicle. Now Archer and Justine get medical aid and reconcile, knowing they are not to be blamed. Archer finally joins hands with Justine and shows her the location he spotted on the map, which is Alex's house. The plot finally shifts to Alex's side of the story to expose the eerie events. At first, we see Alex's daily routine. He gets dropped off and picked up from school by his father. He leads a normal life at home and goes to sleep reading fantasy books. One day his father drops him off at school, but never comes to pick him up. Alex mans up and walks home alone, only to find his parents non-functioning and his Aunt Gladys taking over his guardianship. The more time he spends in her presence, the more he's convinced that she's a witch who has cast a spell on his parents. At times, Gladys finds Alex difficult to control, so she performs a ritual in front of him and makes his father stab himself with a fork. Alex agrees to submit to her, only to get her to stop mistreating his parents. The nefarious Gladys takes advantage of him and tells him to bring her possessions from his classmates. He only manages to get his hands on the students' name tags. Hence, Gladys begins her ritual and uses the name tags to cast a spell on all of Alex's classmates, who leave their homes in the middle of the night and come to her, only to get locked up in her basement. With all the police investigation and the things happening in his house, Alex becomes deeply disturbed and grows silent. He slowly becomes invisible in the eyes of others as he stays out of the picture, and at home, he feeds the kids to protect his parents from Gladys. One day he returns home to find Paul and James at his house, who are bewitched by Gladys. Gladys forces Alex to pack up and flee with her, but they are confronted by Justine and Archer, who are attacked by Paul and James. While Justine puts up a defense, Archer heads to the basement to look for his son, but Gladys arrives and enchants him for a moment. Seeing Archer and Justine fight against Gladys encourages Alex to reverse Gladys's spells against her. This legitimately works, and some kids get their consciousness back. They attack the witch and end her reign. Whereas Alex gets haunted by his parents, who are still under Gladys's spell. Years pass, and some people still don't fully heal, suggesting that not all damage can be restored. The film ends here. If you were trapped in a town where weapons takes place, would you fight back or try to escape? Comment your choice below. The scariest answers might end up in our next video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more awesome horror.